Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, your host on Tuesday's Cosmic Conversations for the Conscious Awakening Network. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who watches, who follows. And if you have not done so yet, go to the Conscious Awakening Network website and sign up so you could get the emails so you know what's going on. And also you can go there and find the link, the little section for the Cosmic Conversations, and you could just sign up for that. Doesn't cost anything. And also you could watch all of the previous shows that have taken place. And it's a huge library of different topics and different guests, all exciting stuff happening. Um, and but the emails this way, you can find out all the events that are going on, not just the Cosmic Conversation events. So tonight we have a great guest who I had the pleasure of being his Facebook friend for a while, and also had the pleasure of talking to him the other day. Um, and he is phenomenal. Jeff Selvers, how are you? Can't even speak today. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
The energy lately has been like crazy. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Life is good. Yeah, life is good. I'm constantly talking and yeah, constantly out there, I guess you could say spreading this message, but it's spreading the story and a lot of people learn about this thing we call the phenomenon through the storytelling and yeah, and it
Good.
just keeps happening, so it's really exciting. Yeah.
So tell us about the story.
Sure. The story. So Glenda, what do you think is the best now that you've heard a portion or these details from our last conversation? Where do you think I should start? What's the thing that people I spent a long time talking about how I got to the memories. Do you think people want to hear
They,
that?
yes, I think they need to hear the background
Okay,
and then go to the memories. You don't have to,
sure.
go through
And
it
it's just
all.
flow. Yeah, it's just a
Yes,
flow. So we'll
exactly.
just let it happen.
Exactly.
So my story starts back in 1997 when I was 20 years old. And I had a very bizarre, there's no words. A consciousness event is the only way I can frame it. And I wasn't a person particularly looking to make that event happen. So I was a musician. I was in music school, and let's say I picked up a book, and the honest truth is I was just learning. Like I think any spiritualist is learning. You're just taking in information, and what ended up happening was um, uh, a change, an inner change. Something had come through. That's all I can really say, and it altered me. And it's safe to say there was like kind of a God realization component to it, but the signature element of it that I have never found in any quote unquote scriptures, now to this day, of course, I mean, was my body felt like it had light in it. So like the DNA of my body, like I would close my eyes and there would be light coming like off of me in my body. And it was just such a profound alteration that it shocked me. So it wasn't something I was trying to make happen. And it came paired with this message through this book to leave my life and abandon my life, to really technically rid myself of my humanness, to abandon this, everything that we stand for as humans, capitalism or jobs or money, friends, family, career. And underneath everything is a self, right? And that was technically the message, actually, that underneath it all is a power that humans don't even recognize or don't acknowledge. And at the time there was no internet and there was no real resources to grab onto. just books you pick up at Chapters, I think at the time, whereas the bookstore, and I don't even know Chapters was around at that in 1997. So yeah, it was very minimal how to get this type of information, and I had an effect off the book, and it was so real I resisted it, but I was altered, and it's compounded with a bunch of different, spiritual energy, I guess, effects you can say,
Mhm.
and all those became recorded in my own journals and such. But it was so profound, I tried to resist it. And when I finally felt maybe quote unquote normal, I had maybe a profound awareness that what is normal is fear for the human. And I actually felt that I had been in such an altered state that was so foreign to me, but was love. It was like an energy of love in my heart or in my consciousness. And I'd kind of resisted it. I'd fought it actually. And once I made that jump to the end where I had fear, I could feel that my normal life that I was craving was fear. I actually decided I couldn't live this way. I had to commit and make this step. I had to leave my life. So I did it. It was February 21st. I cut up all my cards, all my identity, and the premise of the book, the premise of the story was when you do this, synchronicities keep you alive. Like you kind of end up living off of God's, God, like the power of the universe, really, like the synchronicities align. And as soon as I made the effort, my mom had decided to give me the car, and it was like a really weird thing. Thought I was leaving with a backpack, and it turned out a car got in my path, and I thought that's a sign, so I'm taking that, and that was it. I started this kind of like, I guess, hobo-ish life that had a spiritual purpose, and it was God realization at its core. But I didn't know how to contain it, right? So I was just a teenager, and altered and changed by my experience. So I was very, just searching to make sense of what had happened to me. About 6 weeks in was the first 6 weeks in of that traveling. I'd isolated myself. I'd put myself on an island here in Vancouver, in BC, called Hornby Island, and I was just backpacking. And it was the first time I had a close encounter with a red orb. And at the time, I didn't know what the orb was, and I didn't know what it was all about. And it was stationary, and then it kind of moved into the trees, and I was about to go to bed, so I was really shocked. And then as I was basically getting ready to go to bed, I was concerned something was in the forest now, and I felt intuitively it was okay. And then that night, I woke up in the middle of the night with a feeling that they had come, and I didn't know what it meant. I just knew that this bizarre event that had happened to me was so foreign, and I was suspecting weird things at the time. Could it be aliens? But I wasn't into this, and there was no body of knowledge the way we have it now. So I didn't really have any way to understand what was going on or how to identify these things. That was it. That was the first event like that. And then as I traveled for the 2.5 years, I would I would occasionally see orbs, and they would be, you could say, responding to my thoughts. Now this is this is almost common. I can't tell you how many people I interact with who, they're looking at an object kilometers away, and the object responds to their thoughts. And now we have Jack Valet talking this way and Eric Davis talking this way in research papers. So yeah, this was new to me, and I didn't understand it, and I thought of it as a spiritual experience. I didn't quite, and maybe spirits, like you don't really know what's going on. And so that was consistent for about 2.5 years. It culminated with meeting my to-be wife. So I found it's a beautiful romance story in the picture, and she brought me to my Sadguru, or to her guru at the time, and that's how my traveling years ended. So all the traveling relatively occurred in BC here in Canada, and then she was traveling, I was traveling in BC, and we met, and she was from Toronto, and I took it as a sign. Took a couple months, but I eventually made my way to Toronto, and she had a Sadguru, a true guru, not the Sadguru, but a true guru. And all of a sudden, I got a job. All of a sudden, I had a place to live, like all kind of aligned, and it felt very purposeful. And that was it. I stayed, and I altered my life again after 2.5 years of traveling, and the orb stopped. All those objects I'd seen in the sky never came back. And I didn't really know what to make of any of that anyway. I didn't understand what was going on. And then about 15 years later, it was 2016 actually was the beginning of it all, where, I was just unsettled by what had happened. Because it was so spiritual and so significant and filled with synchronicities, the period of to make the decision to go traveling was filled with synchronicities, a whole bunch of messages telling me to leave my life, which was bizarre. Like who receives consistent synchronicities to abandon everything of their existence, right? It doesn't make any sense. And it didn't at the time, but I followed it. And then there was a whole bunch of synchronicities aligning me with my to-be wife, this partner, this girl at the time. And so that was it. It had a magical thing about it all. But it kind of made sense in the terms of coming to a guru. Okay, this makes sense, right? It's the way I kind of framed it at the time. But 15 years later, it kind of stopped making sense. And I wasn't settled with what had happened. And I didn't understand what had happened. Why did it roll out the way it did? It just didn't make any sense. And I never found anything that was similar ever in history or written or anything. So I was just hungry for understanding that. But at the same time, I was in a little bit of discordance and I was transitioning jobs, trying to find the right thing to do. And then 2019 was where it all started to snowball. And I will always credit Jeremy Corbell's Bob Lazar documentary. By the way, the whole point here is that I was not an aliens and UFO guy. Right? This was not my topic. This was not my scene. This was not the thing I delved into. Having a guru was the most of it. I focused on Vedic philosophy, and then I lived out a life. Right? I was a banker. I was into leadership. I have an MBA, so I wasn't really going down this road. And yeah, it was kind of like random that I saw that documentary. It must have been on Netflix at the time. And when I watched it, I took it very seriously. Bob Lazar seemed very legit, actually. And he has the videos of the test flights. So that it's really hard to make all that stuff up. And so it had me really questioning, the things I'd read as a kid. So as a teenager, I'd read some books. I've read Whitley Strieber stuff, and out of nowhere, I thought, I'm gonna check some of this stuff out. So I ended up with watching a video series on anomalous objects in the sky, just people filming orbs and weird things, and then this guy loads them up on the channel and there's no dialogue. He just has these videos. So I started watching those. And when I started watching those, the objects that I saw traveling came back. And then yeah, it poked the bear, you could say, right? And yeah, uncomfortable. And also like, why? But then it also made a connection about the purpose of traveling and what all that stuff was, like the consciousness event. And all of a sudden it made a link that was really shocking, actually. And I didn't know how to process it. And I didn't even know what it meant. And then pretty soon, those objects started to communicate with me. And it's funny, we've evolved in this whole thing that I can now say they were giving me telepathy. But at the time, even when I was telling the story, when I was telling people in 2020, we didn't have anyone like with a good, solid validity saying that you can get telepathy from UFOs. Jake Barber now seems to have like really launched these ideas that this can happen. You can have this type of connection with this content, and so at the time, that's exactly what was happening. This object in the sky one night gave me a command, and I can't relay what that command is, but it was telling me about something that was in the way and to remove that thing. And I said, only if you show yourself. And immediately out the window, a white orb, a spherical object flew across the window or flew across the sky, like in my neighborhood. And of course I'm shocked. And then I take this voice really seriously, but I don't like it. I don't want this. I don't want this. Like, what? Why are you interacting with me? And yeah, I displayed the same behaviors from the traveling period. And that's all I knew. And then one day in meditation, I was thinking about that period again, the mysterious consciousness event. And I literally said to myself in my meditation, my own internal dialogue, it must have been that book I read. And I heard it say that object, that thing that was communicating telepathically to me said, no, it was our meeting with you when you were a young teenager. And I, no, I'm not interested in this. And I'm not interested in this. And I'm actually backing out. I'm kind of like terrified. And I don't want to know what that is. I don't even want to touch it. And obviously it's because it would alter my life. Right. And when I was in the shower, so in a hypnagogic state, right? I'm kind of like relaxed, and then it's almost like that thing, that orb, that object poked a memory. And
Mm,
all of a sudden there was a memory in my head of a owl I'd seen in the backyard of my home growing up as a teenager. And then I started to remember, wait a minute, like I'd known this memory, but I hadn't, like, all of a sudden it just became clear, wait, what is this memory? And all of a sudden I kind of recognized from Whitley Strieber's books 20 years ago that the owl plays a role in screen memories.
mm,
And this was the beginning of it, where I didn't understand it, and I also could feel that it was a memory that wasn't a memory because I didn't have a clear understanding about where it came from, but I had this memory and I'd like reflected on it like other times in my life. So it was like a really weird thing. All of a sudden, I recognized I had a memory that I didn't know where it came from, and I also started reviewing my life and recognizing every memory I have, I can associate with its origins. So why do I have a memory about something I don't understand where it came from? And when I pressed this memory for the first time and thought about it really clearly, the owl's eyes were black and reflective. And then I really didn't know what that meant, but was concerned. And I went to the location where, so eventually I got the courage to look at what this was after some time, and I went to the location of that, where that was, and it's only like 50 minutes from my home, in the area of Coquitlam, just outside Vancouver. And that was the first time ever where I basically brought that memory up at the location, and I could feel displacement
mm,
of one thing that I thought occurred, and then actually something else had occurred. And there was a feeling of having been lured out by a friendly presence. And at the time, I didn't quite recall what had happened, but I would put together pretty quickly. I did remember a night as a young teenager in that house. I'd gotten up in the middle of the night and decided to go into the forest on my own. And I was like sleeping, but couldn't go to bed. And then I'd actually made this effort to go out in the forest for whatever reason. It's the only time I ever did it. I only did it once. And it turned out it was a contact event. And, but that was it at the time. All I had was this displacement and this feeling of this essence or this presence. And then also the strange feeling of my life had thought it gone one way, and then something else that was hidden from me was actually there. And that was the beginning of it. Once I touched that presence, or the feeling of what it feels like to be in their presence, these entities' presence, it started to crack like flashbacks of being with them. And of course these are all 16-year-old and 17-year-old and 20-year-old. So there are these moments that you're not even, you can't even make them up, because I don't have the capacity to have a flashback of me as a 16-year-old on craft. Like, you have all the emotional, you have everything emotional, all the young kid and the way he frames reality at the time. So and I didn't really know what was going on. And of course, I thought this was a terrifying thing. I had assumed that the entities were, like everybody's mythology, that they are take you against your will. So I assumed that's what this was. And this orb was all about that. And it was telling me that I was going to learn something awful about my history. But these flashbacks had me communicating with this thing or these things. And the memories weren't me lying on medical beds and kicking and screaming and terrified for my life. They were, in fact, me standing, talking, and this thing was communicating with me. In some cases, there were weird objects in the memories, like holograms, and none of it made sense. And when I pressed these flashbacks, I could feel other things that occurred. And of course, I'm not scared in the contact events. And so that was the beginning of it. And I would take some time, it took about a year to really, uh, unravel it. And what unraveled was a huge period of contact all around the traveling. And it was 26 contact events with gray aliens. And it started, no, technically I have child now. What everything unraveled, I actually had childhood contact too. So they're in my youth,
mm,
and everything's obscured and everything's kept out of my awareness. And they came back at the age of 16 where they made an agreement with me to discover my soul. So that's what ended up happening. That's why it was so, this consciousness event was so foreign, so bizarre. It was initiated by aliens. And so it started at 16, and then there were 7 contact events that built up what they did with me to this thing I now call the rising, because it's actually their words they used to describe it, a rising. And then there were a whole pile of contact events traveling. And then they had come back several times in my life as an adult, actually. And there were mysterious events in my life. My wife was privy to them. And we assumed something paranormal was occurring, and we didn't know what was happening. But it turned out to be alien contact at those times. And that's it. So that's the story. So that's how I got it anyway. That's why I unraveled this massive thing. And it's unprecedented. It really is. The whole entire story is unprecedented. How it happened to me is unprecedented, and so I go around talking about the story. So
Well, it's good that you go around talking about the story because almost every person that I know that has contact with the grays, all they remember is, you know, fear and being held against their will and that kind of thing. And it's refreshing and healing to hear that that's not how it happens all the time. And I'm grateful it hasn't happened to me like that, but there are a lot of people that have fear behind it. And I think that that's the problem is that they go in with already with the pre pre-programming of you're going to be attacked, you're going to be used, you're going to be whatever, and without your consent, so they emotionally get wrecked even before it
right,
happens.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
and the entities are intense too. So so it does add to it how but the what's generating that isn't necessarily bad or evil. It's just I'm now understanding that the entities are from another dimension. They're from another realm. And
mhm,
when we interact with that realm, it's a shock. And they bring that realm with them when they interact with us. And so humans actually have kind of adverse responses to that. It's a shock to the soul. It's a shock to the soul, right to the core.
mhm,
And too often when I'm investigating what's horrible about people's contact, it's that the entity sat in the corner looking terrifying and didn't do anything, and it's the presence of the entity is shocking to humans, and I now have more awareness or understanding about, because I know those events for my own self and can understand them and relate to them now, but I'm consciousness was at the core of all this, and the oversoul and God and the afterlife was actually all mixed in with it all. And it speaks to what's kind of going on here is that humans are multidimensional entities ourselves, and we get stuck and conditioned into our world. And if they are not, then when they
mhm,
interact with us, it's a lot more shocking than you expect it to be. And what sometimes is you think is the entity terrifying you, sometimes you think it's the entity terrifying you, it's you terrified of an element of yourself that it's
mhm,
poking. So there's kind of
mhm,
adverse reactions that go on when you have kind of these highly paranormal, highly psychic, highly dimensional entities that they are shocking to be around without a doubt.
mhm.
But Yeah, it's a evolution and a learning process, and that's how I've embraced it. And I feel like a lot of that is helpful for me and other people. So
Definitely.
yeah,
We're finally understanding that um, not everything we see is as is appears to be.
right.
And when they come to you, they are high vibrational beings. They're, the idea that they could talk to you from far away out there in the sky and you could talk to them and understand them and get to know them and they get to know you. And you're like, wait a second, I didn't move my mouth.
Right.
They heard me, just what I was thinking. They heard me say, oh dear Lord, what's going on? All that. And yet they calm you down. Because I'm sure, at least in the
Yeah.
events I've had, they like said in the very beginning also, they're like, It's okay. We're not here to do anything. Just relax.
Yeah.
Breathe, breathe. That's usually what they tell me. Breathe, breathe. And I'm like, okay, you try breathing.
We have contact, we have sightings and everything, contact, where when the person gets scared, the entity leaves or the
Hmm.
UFO leaves. So
Hmm.
yeah, this idea that they want to provoke, or it doesn't really match the kind of literature, but nonetheless they do they can happen. And then there's sometimes has to be a digestion about maybe why would they do that. And sometimes they're poking evolutionary. That's what I'm seeing, is a poke for individual growth. And it's a really interesting place to be if you were definitely a deva level entity. This is
Hmm.
something you might do. And because we assume Star Trek, we assume, oh, they're from space and they've come here and now they're going to say, Nanu, Nanu, take me to your leader.
Right.
And really, they have no interest in this. They have an interest in
Right.
you. That's that's
Hmm.
that's the twist. And the researcher can't understand that, right? That
Hmm.
they're interested in you. And that makes no sense unless you understand that they're Deva level and angel level. Yeah, higher, yeah, sure, higher vibrational level. And that's how exactly how a high vibrational entity interacts with something it's trying to bring up. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like the few times I've been taken up, it's either to heal me or to help heal somebody, to hold somebody's hands
Right.
who's going through their fear moment or whatever. And when they heal me, I realize that they're healing me because they still need me here.
Hmm.
It's like, for example, I've had a few times cancer. I've only had
Hmm.
to have treatment once. All the other times I was taken up, they did whatever they had to do, brought back down, go back to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I don't understand. Everything is gone. And I'm like,
Powerful.
it's all cool, good. It's all cool. I'm out of here. Like,
I got these other doctors a bit better, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're a little bit of more advanced.
Yeah.
It's all good. I
Good
just
for
want
you.
to
That's
confirm.
powerful. Right.
But
Powerful.
that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
because they understand that I would still have to be here. Even if the body, the physical vessel is giving up or having trouble on its journey.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that you can be as healthy as possible so you can do what you came here to do. Like you came, one of your reasons is to spread this beautiful story,
Mm.
these experiences, and to show people that it doesn't have to be scary.
Hmm.
It's healing
Yeah.
at all sense of the level, because every single time you speak to them or they communicate with you and you have contact, they're actually talking to your inner self, your higher self, not
Yeah.
not to the guy who's out here, basically, not to the mask,
Yeah.
but the one that's inside and all the skeletons and everything. They know all about it and they still talk to you.
Yeah, I know. You're insecure,
Yeah.
or you have ego, even worse. You're like, oh, I'm so special. And yeah, and they're still, yeah, they're puncturing you and they're going
Right,
right to the core of
right,
your existence in their communication. Yeah.
right.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
So, now your wife has experienced any of these encounters with you, or do you each have your own?
Yeah, so she's okay. The story about her is very fascinating. Um, so she has no conscious contact. I'm suspicious, but she doesn't want to go down certain roads. And but otherwise, she has her own experiences with orbs. And
Okay.
this is really interesting. And she doesn't frame it as aliens. She frames it, well, she frames it as the gurus. Actually, it's
Hmm.
very interesting. Yeah. And she has her own tales. And she's always been super, just I don't know, beautiful, super sweet and beautiful about it all. Like, oh, this orb followed me, and it was green. And she said, I just thought of it as the gurus, and it followed her. Anyway, she has a whole story about it. And she saw things here in my own condo, in my own apartment, and every time she frames it, she said she well. Anyway, I could just go on and on about it. The most important one was the recent one where I'm
Right.
saying I'm communicating with these things. They're
Right.
real. I have this whole story about aliens, and she's not really understanding it. Why are they interacting with you this way? And by the way, to understand this stuff for people outside of it, you have to go down the rabbit hole.
Mm.
And there's a lot of information for people who are not invested in this. And it's just really too hard to swallow for some. And she had no interest in learning about experiencers or alien contact or abductions. And it all just seems kind of weird and scary and has no interest. So kind of a block, actually. And just, okay, this is your thing. And then love is kind of the thing that just, it's an opportunity for us to love each other is really the whole thing behind it. But
Right.
only recently have I been saying, okay, we can call them. She's not understanding that part either. I'm like, no, no, it works. It works. And so only because of this Senate stuff going on and the government's taking it seriously now, and Stephen Colbert or someone randomly will talk about it,
Right.
is she now like, okay, she's trying to take it a bit more serious because I'm so invested in this. And then the other nights, or it was like 2 weeks ago, there's a large orb flying across the sky, and we're watching it, and it's the fastest orb I'd ever seen in my life. So it's like it's no satellite or anything, and it's large, and we're both watching it, and I'm stumped because I'm not really clear. I've never seen that. I've never seen it fly across from horizon to horizon
Right.
in probably like 15 seconds, and it was a bit like we were both kind of like, what the hell was that? And then I have a way that the elder, I'm now so familiar with contact and so familiar with sightings that she communicates to me, which is these kind of sideways spherical brightening up and then quickly moving and then quickly doing something. And she does it really quickly for me in the moment. And I said,
Right.
oh, the elder's here. The elder's here. Okay, okay, we can call them. We can call them. And so she said, okay, 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 fine. What do I have to do? And she surrenders to it. And I'm like, okay, well, we just have to be happy. Let's just be fun and happy. And we were laughing before, so I guess it came out because for that. And let's keep doing
Right.
that. And of course, lo and behold, we're having a good time. And we both look up, and yeah, there it is. It's like coming across, and it brightens up. It's a huge bright, thing in the sky, and
Right.
it comes down. We see the orb, and then it just gone. It disappears.
Right.
And she said, okay, 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 fine. But here's the thing. I can't call that aliens. She said, so how about we call it something else? And I was like, okay, fine. What do you want to call it? So now it's called When the Stars Come to Life. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, okay. It's like stepping stones, right? So that's fine. That's fine. I'm not
Mhm.
sitting here saying definitively what, I know what I'm interacting with, but
Right.
I still am learning about it. So, let's just bring it down. For it's when the stars come to life. And so of course, what did she say? I went out the other night and the stars came to life. So they interact with her, and they've been interacting with her for a long time. And only now are we really pushing that envelope to a phenomenon level.
Hmm.
What used to be the gurus is now maybe possibly the phenomenon. But we have to be gentle with this stuff, and I don't press any of it.
Mm.
And yeah, and that's it. And the other twist to this too, right, is that this rewrote my history, but if
Hmm.
she fully accepted all this stuff, it would rewrite her own. And
Hmm.
it's just so challenging, right? Like, so I have a role to play to balance things out, to not overwhelm, especially when
Right.
those I love. So yeah, it's stepping stones, and the public stuff is really helping people believe it and make sense of it, and or at least a little bit make sense of it. So yeah,
Makes sense to me, but also experience things. So,
yeah.
we have a question. Have the beings ever expressed any shock on their side when they step into our dimension?
Um, the entities that I've always interacted with always appear to know exactly what they're doing,
Hmm.
as if everything's on a schedule, right? Very, very controlled, actually. So I've never experienced them to be shocked per se. I'm convinced from my experience that some of them are designed to be in our dimension and
Hmm.
can fully exist as bodies in our dimension, and some of them can't. And they need the craft. So there might be versions of this entity, of this species, that retain themselves in their dimensional state on craft and come here, and others can literally be beamed down and then walk around and be in our environment. And I don't know how long they can do that. I'm also suspicious that some of the tall grays can be in the environment for a period of time and then need to come back to their environment because they have whatever reason they can't stay here. But
Right.
that's what I'm leaning towards a suspicion that there's varying degrees of
Hmm.
their adaptability to our dimension, depending on which maybe version of the grays. Yeah.
So, I'm thinking that there's hybrids that are even walking among us. And,
That's what
you
we
know,
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's just more, they're upgraded more than we are. That's for sure.
Yeah. And well, I lean towards that humanity has base stocks
Right.
that are, yeah, that some of the, some of the races are actually um are hybrids of some things. And I've been speaking a long time since I've been public that that the gray aliens are definitely Celtic, and the Druid Celtic thing were gray alien hybrids. I could always feel the Irish gene in people from my
Mhm.
experience of my connection with the Greys and the DNA exchange I had with them. And then I would be right. People, I could feel that their Celtic DNA. And then only recently, John Ramirez said so on Area 52 that they knew Celtic to be. He didn't mention which species, but he said he knew
Mhm.
that Celtics were hybrids, and that just confirms my suspicion.
Mhm.
Well, I already knew. So yeah, then and that could be a variety. I think that just lends towards a truth that multiple races on our planet could be having origins that are extraordinary, and yeah, so they're hybrids, and then you're
Yeah.
right, and then there's augmentations that
Right.
the entities have been doing generationally as well too.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's where the junk DNA strands come in.
They call it dark DNA now. Yeah, I think there was a whole uproar
Dark,
about junk.
dark,
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah, yeah, right. Still though, it's yeah, well, it's like dark matter, so I think they're trying to make a
Yeah,
correlation there, dark DNA. But yeah, then there's a lot of research now. It's not dark, and yeah, it seems to have a relationship to consciousness actually. So it's very
right.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yes. So, when you wrote this book, were they pushing you to write the book, or yeah, I
Yeah. It was
figured.
a it was actually it was a yeah, it was a command. It was a command in the 25th contact event to basically at that point, and that was 2016, if you recall the beginning
Mhm.
of my story, I had actually said it was 2016 was when I started to feel discordance about what had happened in the past. And that
Right,
was actually from a contact event where she told me my memories were open. And at that time, she said, you can, when you get them, write them out into a book and tell everybody what happened to you and tell them about us and tell them that we're coming, actually, was the whole thing.
mhm.
And so there was kind of this command. And then, yeah, while writing the book, the orbs and stuff, there was this like, get on it. And it was this urgency from them to get this information out.
Right,
And so I did the first edition and it was kind of rushed actually, because there was this urgency to get it out. And I could feel this message was important. So
right.
I just listened and I agreed. The information seemed very important. And so that's how it started. Yeah.
Mm. And now, the first time you hit that send button, you send it out. Were you like, oh, what did I do? Or were you like, okay, it's done?
No, it's never ending. It's never ending. Yeah, it's so then the first edition was out
Right.
and I didn't want to sell it. I didn't want to give it out. I actually there's a it's really hard being a contactee. It really is. You have to balance too much and there's not enough resources for support. So you're just this spirit fighting against, everything practically. And so I told too much in the first edition, and so that made me highly uncomfortable with it.
Mhm.
And Preston Dennett mentioned my book on
Mm.
his channel, and I panicked. Instead of celebrating, I panicked, and that's how intense it was. I really had trouble selling it, and it's
Right,
because I gave away everything, and the reason I did that is because I'm left in a state of trying to convince people my contact was real.
right,
So you're in this kind of game of trying to convince people, and the reason I'm doing that, the reason I'm in that those feelings in that state is because I believe the message is urgent. So if I have a book that's hard for people to wrap their head around, and they half believe it or don't, and then also it's very ugly because you're exposing things about yourself, you don't feel like you're doing a good job at sending that message out. So it was like a
Right.
weird thing had to go through. And then Susie Hansen, the author of The Dual Soul Connection, uh, who is also a board member for ICER, International Community for Extraterrestrial Research,
Hmm.
researcher, contact you, right? And of course, she's a researcher in New Zealand and has been at it for 30 years. She has a similar type of contact to me, and we've been to similar spaces on craft. And we found a lot of correlation. And I asked her if she'd help me with the second edition. So she was just, amazing. Susie Hansen, check out her book if you want to delve into this side of contact. My book and her book actually, I think, are really, really amazing together. And she helped me. We spent a year and we tore everything apart about my story. And I had to get to the nitty gritties. Do you think I should say that? Do you think I should say that? What if I don't want to say that, but I want to say that part? And she helped with all that,
Right.
and we ironed it out, and that's the second edition.
Mhm.
And then I was able to feel like, okay, I thought I'd feel that way you mentioned, where you're like, okay, it's done, but then you are ingrained with this
Mhm.
message, and so you
Mhm.
don't feel like it's enough, and that's it. You keep out there and you keep talking, and the truth is, I might be programmed. I think I am. People use words like that, but it's the fact is my spirit is on side, and this isn't mental brainwashing. This is, I know what's going on, and I've been right about everything. That's the twist. When you get the memories out and you're not into this UFO field, all of a sudden the tiny details are matching up and you get shocked, how your memories match up all with all these other people's type of content. You don't doubt anything, and I don't
Mhm.
doubt their future message, and that's why I find this to be of the utmost importance. So yeah, it feels like it's never ending. I
I
mean
hear
that with
you.
love, of course, but yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. So, now, did they ever give you a time period or year period, like that they would come or
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't. Yeah,
okay,
no,
I
they
was gonna,
didn't. It's very
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. And I just had that information and I was talking about it before I eventually heard John Ramirez. And I've always kind of leaned towards this because it's the thing that made my own contact events make sense, the future
Mhm.
information they gave me. So the bottom line was that the planet is at stake here. It's the whole thing from the gray aliens' vantage, at least from what they told me,
Mhm.
is the planet was what was at stake, and they needed they want it preserved. And I
Right.
think they kind of feel like we're maybe not caring about that too much.
Mhm.
So there's a kind of an intervention going on here, and that's the only information I had. And when you look around, there's a lot of damage occurring, and it seems to be increasing. So it looked like something maybe coming around the corner. And then it's John Ramirez who actually said, uh, making John Ramirez who made sense of Leslie Keene's article that released that started this whole government side to this
Mhm.
disclosure, which released Pentagon videos, right? So there was kind of a link up through Tom DeLong and Lou Elizondo, who basically spoke on behalf, if you will, that there were these programs that had UFOs or that the government was interested in UFOs and spent a lot of money researching it.
Mhm.
And of course, that's now all blown up. And we just had a video of a missile attempting to shoot down a UFO. And so it really, John Ramirez is the one who said this is a 10-year soft disclosure program because they're going to show up. And when they
Mhm.
do, we need to be telling people about them. I was like, well, that's what makes my story make sense.
Mhm.
That we're actually we're in the tail end of it as we
Right.
speak, and I don't think they did a good job. I actually think since the 50s and possibly the 40s, they were supposed to have done some stuff to prepare the planet for them. And I'm pretty convinced ET and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the Day the Earth Stood Still were all attempts actually
Mhm.
to start bringing some of this information forward. And there was always that push and pull, that military style secret program stuff going on,
Mhm.
while some portion thought they should. And it looks like we're at the tail end of something they should have done to prepare us for the intensity of what this is about to be. And so yeah, that's I don't stick to any dates, but
Right.
this idea that something is coming up really soon does match what I'm convinced is going to happen. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, I put your website on in the chat room, so if anybody wanted to go and look for your book and stuff like that. Does anyone else have any questions? Not at this time. You're all just wow,
Blown
mesmerized,
away. Yeah.
blown away, blown away. So when they come to you, do they come easier now? Is it like faster or uh,
So I haven't had physical contact since
okay,
2017.
okay,
And then otherwise it's this orb
right.
thing, and it's almost like we've cut all the corners out. And I have I have clear telepathy with the elder. So I
Mm-hmm.
can communicate with her presently. And she responds. I can ask her to come out, and she does.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can film her, and there's been cases where that's happened. So they do respond, and but everything has a little bit of a distance. So I can't get her to get closer sometimes, and she won't, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So it's very fascinating. We're kind of in this state where the world's in the place it's in, and everything is seems to be metered out too. Very, very gentle, not rushing
Mm-hmm.
of information. So yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, I just haven't had that physical contact since 2017, and now it's all this kind of orb style thing going on, and drones actually too. There were different weird shaped objects that were part of all this, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the gist of it. Otherwise, it's just the telepathy, and then I end up doing research on them still and all the content, and they guide it. Yeah, they guide what to. I do presentations on my YouTube channel, and they
Right.
guide that. Yeah, they say do that, do this, and again, not brainwashing. It's actually they let me, what it is they let me be creative. I have my own interest. Okay, I want
Right.
to do that or this or this, and then they jump in. Okay, cool, try that. Look at that, and then I'm looking at something that was said by someone that matches. So yeah, they kind of like
Direct you.
usher. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
very gently. Everything is
Right.
gentle, and then I
Right.
have my own creative volition, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're standoffish about that, and then gently nudge, and it works really well. It's a great working relationship. So yeah,
Now, does the elder does she go by name or you just the energy?
Migraine. Yeah, it's just an energy. It's a telepathic signature is a
Right.
good way to frame it. Yeah, and then my the elder is a an archetype she oozed. Right, so
Okay.
she was some
Yeah.
type of I always frame it like she played a judiciary role or something,
Mm-hmm.
or like a political role in her society. So she had a chiefdom about her, and
Okay.
so yeah, and I don't know what that was actually. I don't really. I have some inklings from the telepathy,
Mm-hmm.
but overarching, she carries this. Yeah, very. She's like an important person in her society, and I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Mm.
So the
Okay.
elder was this kind of feeling that oozed off of her.
No, that's a good analogy, good word for it. Because, humans have to have labels for everything. So we could actually deal with it in our mind.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
so
Well, I did ask in a contact event in my eighth, what is your name? And I kind of was like, I don't ask anybody their name. And she's like, well, the entity I was dealing with at the time said, we don't have names, not the way you have names.
hmm
Yeah.
right.
And the entire contact events are all these telepathic signatures. It's really bringing to mind that entity and their feel. That's all it
Mm.
is. Yeah. And they know who you're talking about. Yeah.
That's well, they're more advanced than we could even think about. So
Well, in language, right? It's yeah, we're dealing with different syntax at this point.
right,
It's the impulse of pure intention is all they need sometimes for a communication. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So now are you looking into book two? Or they haven't done that yet to you?
Oh, book two. There probably won't be a book two, but there might be a third edition. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I've understood more about what happened to me.
Mhm.
It's taken, what happened to me was extraordinary beyond this world, and the second edition is me getting all the contact and all the detail, all the story, but I
Mhm.
still didn't understand it. And so I think that comes off in the book a little bit for people. They kind of also kind of question, like, what? They have a
Mm.
trouble kind of wrapping their head around it. And all I can relay was what happened to me. But
Right.
now I understand it. And so I've kind of had an evolution myself, trying to wrap my head around how they did what they did. And I think that adds more detail to the contact. It adds more understanding about the phenomenon. And I just feel that there's much more to get out of what they did with me. So yeah, it feels like a third edition. And I have some people who are interested in hearing about that. So yeah, and it would be maybe
Good.
the best way to the best story I could ever put out, feeling like it could be stamped closed of my life. Yeah.
Right.
And then that would be it, and I can let it all go for yeah.
So you think. Anyway,
So I think exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
until then, all of a sudden they're knocking on your door, on their window.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, you
Hello?
spent 10 years great doing that. We're gonna do another one now. Yeah, you got
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's you
yeah,
never know with
yeah,
this stuff where it's going.
yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
yeah. I'm speaking from experience. Anyway,
I believe it. I believe it.
so tell us the name of your book for those that don't really, if you have it
Yeah.
there, you can show it.
Yeah, you got it. So the name of the book
Uh,
is The Rising,
right.
and it's the Rising and the alien plan to build an enlightened city on Earth. And that's the gist, right? The story kind of climaxes with them explaining. First off, I was part of the hybrid program, so there was this whole. It's a fascinating story. Basically, it starts with the spiritual content first.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up, and that's how I built the relationship with them. Was there was this spiritual side to it all,
Mm-hmm.
and that was its purpose. So this rising that they had done, this 1997 consciousness event, was all the culmination of just spiritual content all the way. So it's very profound, and I see the afterlife, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
transformed, and past lives are involved with it. So it's this other dimensional content that they start everything with, and then there's a biological year, 1998. And so I get the same stuff that everyone else gets. So, but when you see it paired up with this other content,
Mm-hmm.
it ends up telling a different story about what's really going on and why they would need that. And I end up being convinced that they're right, that there is a kind of a higher purpose to this. And they do explain it like that. And in the end, there's enough information that I kind of agree to it, and I actually accept this. And then they're culminating with a kind of a grander picture about how they plan to do things. And in the end, there's this idea of a city on our terrestrial dimension would be a city of some type. Now, is that symbolic? I'll leave it up to the reader, or is it literal? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and regardless, they're telling you they're coming, and how you want to frame what all that means is a whole other story. But they give all the information in the book for it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Good, good,
yeah.
great. It's it it is it's a blessing for you to have had those experiences, even though at some points it may not have seemed so. But
Yeah, yeah.
right. But the fact that they elevated you spiritually, uh,
Yeah,
you
and it
know,
speaks to all of it. It's all
right,
evolution, and that's really, and we all evolve differently, right? And that's
exactly.
the key to this. Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anything else you want to add? Um, that,
Oh, well, just thanks for having me, Glenda. Yeah, this is
oh,
fantastic. Thanks for hearing my story. Thanks everyone for coming. Really appreciate your presence. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I just love the inquisitiveness, and that spiritual side is understood here too. So it's really great.
yes.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, any questions, any comments? Because somebody said amazing. So, um, anyone? Come on, you could
Yeah,
speak.
I think that you getting your information out. I was telling this to Glenda before you showed up. I think it's going to take care of a lot of the fear because people are now becoming more uh they're hearing more, they're like, like your wife, she's more exposed to it. They're so little, and yeah, it's everybody's going to know someday soon. So it's just but I think that's taking care of the fear because people are even, hey, abduct me, they're looking forward to something exciting,
Yeah,
because
yeah, they want out of their mundane life. Yeah, they want to be abducted. And that's the greatest feedback I receive from people are people who said my content changed their perspective on the phenomenon. And
Yeah.
and there are some really scary ideas of like Prison Planet and stuff. And I just got an email the other day that said, you converted me out of Prison Planet, which I like, that's a win because that's a very disturbing
Yeah.
perspective on spirituality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so you're right, and I appreciate that. And that's I feel like that's one of the great joys of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, sweet.
Now
Yeah.
I see, um, are the orbs from different dimensions than the physical beings?
So yeah, what am I really looking at, right? Yeah, it's a good question. They appear and disappear, and I'm convinced they're crafts. They look like crafts. They are spherical in nature, and I had some pretty good exposure. I went down to Contact in the Desert on 2025, and my entities were there, and Chris Bledsoe ran it, and it was I, you know, I don't know if people find this disturbing or not, but it's the same stuff. It's exactly the same stuff. And because my entity showed me that they were there, and then Chris did a whole thing, and I love Chris. He's a great guy, and I got to hang out with him. And but someone had night vision goggles on, and that was the most fascinating was that so we're witnessing these slow moving orbs that appear and disappear, and then they get really bright and they shine and they can be responding to you, right? So they can communicate through
Right.
these flashes. Everything's very gentle, and then you put on the night vision goggles and they're flying and they're whipping around and they're coming together and breaking apart, and when you take the glasses off you can't see them. So they're
Mm.
physically there and they're operating in some other, frequency. And then they come in gently for the presentation, if you will. But without a doubt, these are objects. These are physical crafts. Now, could they still be like some weird mixture of this? Like, is the elder actually in a craft hanging around my home, or is she in another dimension telepathically operating an AI craft? Right? Like, there's a whole variety of things I think could be going on here that are just the options. I think are like it's just
Mm.
huge options for them. I don't think that it's cut and dry, but I know I'm looking at a physical object because it looks like a physical object. So,
You
but
know,
yeah, I don't know the degree of what's what because it actually confuses me. But I am dealing
Mhm.
with the singular entity, the elder, because I can actually address her and she'll respond. So yeah, that's the only distinction I know. Yeah.
I don't know if you know who Stone Hobbit is. She's usually here, but she wasn't here today. But she gets pictures of orbs. She's got so many orbs, and she said some of them are craft, some of them are entities. They come and they turn into an ET. She
Yeah.
said some of
Yeah.
them are she called it like fields of information. She said it's not a craft or a person, but it just comes and it just gives her a download. Look up
Right.
Stone Hobbit. She's got orbs up the wazoo. Really good
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah. 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 No, that's great. That's great. And yeah, I'm familiar with, yeah, the communication, like they're, in some cases, they're downloads. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I did a Reddit post on some of that information I got and relayed that to the public. Yeah. Just from an orb. Yeah. It's great.
Now, for those that are on Facebook, Jeff is on Facebook also, and he's basically all over the place. He's on YouTube, he's on Facebook, he's like me, he's just, spreading the word wherever he can,
Yeah.
and that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, we have, let's see, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Greg, thanks, Jeff. Love that your wife has had orb experiences. So
Yes. Yeah. Slowly but surely. Yeah. Maybe one day she'll expose it. She's a professional and I can't bring her on to
no,
anything, right? Yeah.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
So there's a whole backstory here where we have to protect her. So yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of like the same thing with my channeling. There are two people who are with me, but they choose not to appear. Their
Yeah.
names are different, so
Yeah. It's like
that's
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
Totally.
It's a great show, very interesting. So this is great. Any other questions? Any other comments? Oh, thank you for such interesting information from Kathy. All
Beautiful.
right, you guys are awesome. And again, thank you, Jeff. As
Yeah. Thank
always,
you.
it's a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenda, for having me.
Very good
Yeah. Thank you so
stories.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to our audience, if you catch this later, please look up Jeff And for those that don't know, sign up on Conscious Awakening Network so you could catch up on all of the shows. And you'll have, you could just sit there with your popcorn and watch all the shows. So don't miss anything, and sign up for the email so you can get the future shows. So thank you, Jeff, again. Thank you to
Thank you.
everyone. And good night. And as
Good
always,
night.
I always signed up. Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Be good.
Bye.